Hey there, welcome to the Agents of Revival podcast. If you're ready to be healed and take full accountability of your life by evolving into your best self, then this is the podcast for you. I am your host, Andrea Griffin Rogers, and I'll share with you winning steps as well as personal tips and anecdotes on how to go from brokenness to wholeness and from scattered pieces to inner peace. So come on in and join me on this healing journey, and let's become whole together. Enjoy it! Hey, what's up, guys? How are you today? That all is well and that this message stirs your faith, falls on good ground, produces what? Good fruits in your lives. Kudos to those that got it right. Today we are talking about payments on greatness. Oh yeah, baby. It's going to cost you something. And you may have heard me talk about this before, but I couldn't get away from it because I feel like people want things and they're praying for things. I hear it all the time, but you don't understand the cost. And it's so interesting because Jesus gave a whole message about the cost in Luke chapter 14. Now, it's titled The Cost of Discipleship, but if you take and extrapolate the wisdom from it, it's showing you that everything has a cost. Even when we look at the breakdown that King Solomon wrote in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, it's showing that everything has a cost because there's a time and a season for everything under the heavens and the earth. And so it's going to cost you something. And there are a lot of people who want the mountaintop. And it's like, well, how are you going to get there? If you're on the valley or at the base, that you can see, because we know mountains go deep and then they go up. But if you're at the base, ground level of that mountain and you're like, I want the mountaintop. Okay, just screaming it ain't going to get you the mountaintop. You're going to still stay stuck where you were. That's because it requires work. It requires a plan of action. Now, whether that be finding someone who has a helicopter that can fly you to that mountaintop, or finding out the resources and tools that you're going to need to start climbing it or walking it with a travel guide, it doesn't matter. There is going to be something that is going to require work in order to get there. And so, yeah, there's payments on greatness. No great person, there's so many greats out there in the world that many admire, whether they were past or present. They all had to pay something. And I don't just mean financially. I mean, it cost them something in order to achieve that level of greatness, in order to even sustain at the level that they amassed to. It cost them something. I remember watching this documentary. I can't remember the name of it because it's several that have the same name. So I'm not even going to bother trying it. It was from the History Channel. So I'll just say that. And it was talking about those who built up America in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And it's very, very inspiring, at least for somebody like me who loves Andrew Carnegie and loves to, read about his story. And so, in particular, though, it was looking at this part of the documentary. It was looking at J.P. Morgan, and he wanted to make a name for himself underneath or outside of his father, because he was underneath his father's name for so long, who built up the House of Morgan, and it was going to cost him something to do that. Now, at the time, this particular documentary kind of gives a breakdown a little bit of like his childhood. And so there's actors acting it out. And as I saw, parts of this documentary that was, being acted out, it was very cold. And the disconnect that the father had with the child. There's a part of it basically where the father says, now I don't know how true this is. I haven't read a history book on all things JP Morgan. I'm just going from this documentary. But, where the father says, like, do you see this? He shows him like a wrapping knapsack, if you will. Like in modern terms, a big like suitcase full of money. he says, you see this? And the son is like, yes. And he says, great. Now learn how to make it yourself. It was just like, what? This child, and I think that the child at the time might have been, between 9 and 12. And it was like, what? Really? But one thing that the father, Morgan, instilled in the son was money, business. He wanted him to learn how to make money, how to manage money, how to create wealth for himself. And so he had him learning and studying constantly the books and other things, the accounting books and whatever and whatnot, so that he can, achieve greatness. But it came at a cost. I'm sure JP Morgan wanted to spend time with his dad. Maybe wanted to, I don't know what games they played back then, but maybe it was, something similar to soccer. Or maybe he wanted to just spend time with him and talking. I don't know, just having a good time doing something else that children want to do in that time. And he didn't get that. His dad was very much focused on the business and making him a businessman, a successful businessman. And so fast forward to when, JP Morgan gets older and he decides, not only do I want to, okay, I'll do the banking business, but I don't want to just be in the banking business. I want to make a name for myself. And he partners with Edison. And we know Edison, with electricity and whatnot. And so his dad is like, no, do not invest in that. That is not a short shot way to do that. And there were some challenges that JP Morgan and Edison faced. If you know Edison's story, that he faced with the competition with Westinghouse and Tesla. There was a whole thing about it. But nevertheless, at the end of the day, kind of fast forwarding you through the story, at the end of the day, JP Morgan did see success and he did make a name for himself. But it came at a cost. There were some payments that he had to make on this greatness. There were some challenges and some roadblocks that he faced. There was some rejection he had to face. There was some ridicule he had to face, not just from his family, but also from other people who were like, what is this person doing? They don't know what they're doing. Like, you look foolish in the banking industry or whatnot. But he believed in what he wanted to achieve. And he wound up seeing it, but it came at a cost. And so what are you praying to God for? But are you willing to pay the cost? Are you willing to pay the price for the very thing you're praying for? A lot of people want to be healed. A lot of people want their lives to change. They want to eliminate the stress in their life. And we've seen it time and time again. That's why there's so many shows that talk about travel and whatnot, because people think that, oh, well, if I just move to this location, life will be better for me. But as they find, down the line, when the excitement wears off and the rose-colored glasses are taken off that made you think that the grass was so much greener over here and so much better, they realize they have the same problems. Why? Because it doesn't matter what location you move to or where you shift in your room or your house or your environment. If you don't deal with it internally, then external factors that make no difference, because you can change your environment and still deal with the same problems. People that live in the suburbs got the same problems as people that live in the hood or that live in the inner city. It's no different. People that are super, super wealthy deal with the same problems of people that are super, super poor. It's no different. It's just more money, which means more problems. Didn't Biggie say that? So it doesn't matter. There's still going to be a payment. They're still going to cost you something. And part of it is your comfort zone. Yeah. Most people do not want to put a deposit down on giving up their comfort zone. Oh, no. I am comfortable doing this. I am comfortable living this way. I am comfortable just bottling things up and shutting down and just faking the funk and pretending that things aren't bothering me. I'm comfortable there because it doesn't require me to stretch. Stretching is uncomfortable. Stretching sometimes hurts. I go to the gym, so I know sometimes stretching can feel good and you're like, oh, that felt good. But then there's some stretches that's like, ooh, baby, don't push that. don't, ooh, that hurt. You got to do some extra stretches to get out the stretch you just stretched, but it's still worth it You never see an athlete say, "Oh," or anybody that goes to the gym rather, and that stays consistent in the gym. Or people say gym rat in America that feels like, oh no, the stretching, the amount of workout that I did was not worth it. No, they saw the results eventually. I was looking at this particular pastor, Pastor Mike Todd. He had taught a message a while ago on I think it was fit to stay sharp or fit something. It was part of his start sharp or stay sharp series that he taught at the beginning of the year. And what I loved about the message that he did on this particular video was he showed himself in a very vulnerable way. Most people would have never shown themselves in that light. Now, granted, if you go back even to 2019, you'll see some videos of him when he was at his heaviest weight. So it's not like it's a surprise. But where he is now, he's lost a significant amount of weight. Looks completely different. And what he was showing was it cost him something. He had to make some down payments on it. That meant he had to give up the things that he enjoyed. He had to acknowledge his thinking. Yeah, because part of it is acknowledging that your thought process could be blocking you from moving forward. He had a thought process at that time that said, well, I'm going to be big. I know how to dress. I'm just going to make it look fly, make it look good. And it is what it is. But that really wasn't his heart desire. Because as he went on to eventually mention, like, God had been speaking to him for years about losing the weight. But it became the norm to him. And so he kept telling himself that it's okay that I'm this way. It's okay that I look like this. It's okay. As long as I can find some clothes to dress it and make it look good, I'm good. And how many people out there are like that? Where you keep telling yourself, it's okay. It's okay. As long as I keep pushing through, I'll make it. I'll be good. As long as I get through this day, I'll be all right. And you are literally running on fumes. You are literally just surviving the day. Just surviving every waking hour. And there are some people that live their entire lives like that. That is not what God wants for you. He paid a ultimate price when he gave up Jesus in Calvary, on the cross. If your faith needs to be renewed, go read Isaiah 53. He gave it all. He took the stripes. He took the strife. He took the stress. He took the pressure. He took the headache. He took the anxiety. He took the depression. He took the frustration. He took the guilt. He took the shame. He took it all for you to live a better life, for you to become your greatest, best self, so that you can be a representation of him, of God, of the kingdom of heaven. And yet so many are here on earth. And you're living beneath. You're living less than. You're still, dare I say, I heard somebody say it before, nailing God to the cross. Nailing Jesus to the cross. You're still willing to just bear the weight of the cross. Why? Why? Now, in our modern terms, we couldn't possibly understand the agony and the shame that it felt like for the ancient Jews to be crucified on a cross. You couldn't possibly imagine what that felt like. We can look at movies and yes, we can see, but through the dramatization of the actor playing and the director directing it, but you still have no idea what that actually feels like in your body. And yet Jesus said, I took it all. So why are you living less than? Why are you living beneath your best self? Why are you afraid to get healing? Why are you afraid to get counseling? Why are you afraid to address the mess and the messy issues of the past? I got a miracle for you, but you got to be willing to give up that mess. And one of the biggest things that I'll say, and they teach this in psychology, period, is one of the first steps is just to admit that you need help. Admit that there is a problem. And you have so many people that are too afraid to even admit it. Now, forget admitting it to anybody else. You can't even admit it to yourself that there's a problem. So then how can God get you to the greater that you've been praying for when you won't even deal with the mess today? Because what's going to happen is you're going to literally take that trash, that garbage that has been, festering and stinking in your heart and in your mind, and you're going to take it to that. If God was to give it to you, you're going to take it to that thing that you've been praying for, that relationship, that business deal, that move, that new house, whatever it is. You're going to take it to that next level and funk it up. You never see somebody take stinky garbage and put it in a beautiful smelling room. You still don't smell the garbage. No. I don't care how close you stand into the candle. You're going to still get some whiffs of that odor. It's going to still stink. It's like, something that's rotten outside, and just because the wind came and blew doesn't mean that the rotten thing went away. It doesn't go away until you literally pick up and remove what is rotten. Excuse me. That's why people can always smell when something is dead. Like if you're out driving or whatever, and you're like, "Oh, it must be a dead skunk or a dead animal or something," because you can smell it. Now, who knows how long that thing was sitting there being dead? Now, you smell the strength of it and you think it just happened, but what if it would have happened a week or 2 weeks ago? But the stench is still there. Why? Because nobody dealt with it yet. And so since nobody dealt with it yet, it's still there. It doesn't matter how bright and sunny it is outside. If your heart is still cloudy, if your mind is still battling with more sad days than good days, then it's because there's an issue that you're not willing to address. And God says, I'm not going to open the door for you until you see this enemy the right way. You got to be willing to see your adversary the right way, because that's the only way that you're going to defeat the giant in front of you. But as long as you feel like it's too scary, it's too big, it's too much, I can't do that, then you will never do it. Because you keep telling yourself that lie that you can't. And so you won't. But all it takes is a changed mind. That's what repentance is. Repent means to change course from the way you once were going. You can change. But again, it's going to cost you. And part of that cost is your comfort zone. You got to be willing to give up the good for the gold. You got to be willing to give up your comfort zone in order to see that prize that you've been dreaming and longing and hoping for. How bad do you want it? Like, seriously, how bad do you really want it? Because let me tell you something that I learned. Now, when I first heard this, it was on a play by Tyler Perry called Medea's Class Reunion. This is years ago. But I had the DVD, so I could pop it in at any time. And when I was going through my tough time, I turned to a lot of his old plays because I needed them. They were just like fuel to pick me up, and of course to share in the laugh between him. Him playing Medea and Father Brown just was a mess. So in Class Reunion, there's a particular scene that is so crucial to like literally the entire story, because it's those moments that we all know of if you've ever seen a Medea movie or play or whatever. It's the moment where Medea gives her wisdom, so to speak. And they're in a restaurant, and Medea is sitting there having dinner lunch with Cora, and two women come in. Now, one is Cora's girlfriend, and the other one is just a daughter of an employee there. Now, Cora's girlfriend is in a marriage where her husband constantly cheats on her. And he is so bad at cheating on her that not only is he cheating with the woman that is in the hotel, not that same woman, but another woman that's in the hotel who's the manager of the hotel, but he also told the manager of the hotel that his wife is dying, which was just, oh my gosh. And he fathered a child with the woman that is the manager of the hotel. So the wife is sitting there talking to Cora, and she's like, hey, what's going on? I can tell that I'm your friend, so I can tell that you're really not happy, that there's something deep there going on. And oh my goodness, the friend gets so offended. All Cora said was, I'm just concerned about you. And so the friend is like, well, I don't need you to be concerned about me because my man, I have a man, and I'd rather a piece of man than no man at all. And until you have a man that you can't tell me about, man. Now, and Cora's like, well, listen, I'm not that desperate where I just need a man that's going to treat me like crap. It's not worth it. And so she like, well, at least my man loves me. But this is the same man who had came into the like while they were at the table talking, he came in to get some money from her, and she wanted a kiss, and he said, oh, no, not in public. And it was just like, wow, you won't even kiss your wife. You kissed all over the girlfriend in public, but you won't even kiss your wife in public, but you come and get her money and walk out. And so, of course, the biggest thing was pride with this particular friend who did not want to address the mess in her marriage. Now, she's seen it. She knew, and then she didn't know the extent of his affairs, but she knew. I feel like everybody has that gut thought, that conscience, which we know is the Holy Spirit for some, that conscience that speaks to you, that lets you know there's red flags here. But many people are too afraid to pay to go for great. And so you stay in something that God doesn't want you in. Now, eventually, this woman did wind up at the end of the story leaving her husband, but she had to finally get to the point where she was tired of paying the piper who was willing to go fiddle somewhere else. She had to realize that, you know what? In order for me to see what God has in store for me, in order for me to become my best self, my greater self, I gotta be willing to pay this cost. Now, I am not here advocating divorce. I'm not going to do that. But in this particular instance, this woman knew that this is grounds for divorce. Even the Bible talks about it when it comes to affair. But anyway, this is grounds for divorce. You got a child with this woman and everything. Spending my money on her. And you won't even give me half a love. She finally realized her value. But it came at being willing to address the mess. Address the funk, the stench. And this is why sometimes it may take an exterior person to point out what others may be either too afraid to see or for some reason won't acknowledge. It took a good friend in Cora, because the Bible says, as iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. Or one person can sharpen another. It took Cora being willing to sharpen her friend to say, I've known you to be much better than this. You don't deserve this. You deserve someone who's going to love you and cherish you and respect you and treat you like the queen that you are. But she had to see it in herself. And even though it came at the cost of her pride, and she didn't like to pay that in that moment, it benefited in the long run. And she was able to even go to her friend and apologize for the way she reacted, because she understood, you were just looking out for me. You loved me enough to tell me the truth when everybody else wouldn't. I knew the truth. I just kept pretending it wasn't there. So what are you pretending isn't there? You got to be willing to give up the good for the gold. And is it really good? It could be painted rock. And you think that this is worth something and it's valuable. It's not. It's rock. As soon as the water comes to wash that paint away, then you're back with a heavy stone that's weighing you down. When God says, I have come to give you life everlasting. I have come to raise you up on wings as eagle, so that you may run and not get weary, so that you may walk and not faint. I've come to give you a better, more abundant life. But it does require a payment on that greatness. It does require you to give up what seems comfortable right now. I remember when, speaking of relationships, since I can't kind of get off of this right now, I remember when I finally stood up my ground and said, you know what, I'm just going to be single in this season. I've been praying about it for years because I just knew that God had better in store for me. But I kept getting into the wrong relationship. I literally kept dating the same person, different face, different name, but same spirit. And kept wondering, well, why they keep breaking my heart? And I had to learn to change that narrative because they didn't break my heart. I broke my heart because I saw the red flags. I saw the signs that showed me they were just like the last person, and I still stayed. And when we see that cycle repeat of the same person, just different face, different name, but same spirit, then we have to look at what is attracting them to me. Because that means there's something internally that you're not dealing with. That means it's a stench in you, in your heart, that you won't deal with, an area that you won't address. And so you're going to continue to attract flies, though you want to keep swatting them away. And so finally, when I stood my ground and, not only just prayed about it, but said, you know what, God, I'm not going to just keep praying about this. I'm going to actually do it. And stood my ground and remained single. Not only was I able to unpack the areas of my heart that I had been running away from and had been neglecting and ignoring and pretending that they weren't there, but I also have seen how God has taken the taste out of my mouth for what I once wanted and desired, for what I thought was who I wanted. They don't even attract me no more. Don't even come with that. And some of those exes, because the enemy will test you to see, have you really matured? Have you really grown? Are you really prepared for what you've been praying for and what you've been practicing for and what you've been putting in preparation for? And so some of those same exes came back thinking that that door was going to be open and that they were going to be able to come back in and see what's good. Hey, big head. Bye, boy, bye. Okay. I had to say, no, I'm not even opening that door. I'm not even going to give you a crack. I'm not even cracking it open because we don't want to give a foothold to the enemy. And if you've ever slammed your foot in a door, or even just casually, because I did this casually, I didn't slam my foot in a door, but I casually put my foot in the door and then tried to gently close the door. And I realized, wow, even though this isn't that much space between the door frame and the door, it's still open enough where something could fly in, where something can get in. Maybe my dog at that time couldn't have got in, but a bird or something small could fly in. And so you never want to give a foothold to the enemy. All it takes is just a little opening. And then boom, he got you. But you got to be willing to address the mess. Don't be too afraid. Not in this season. And who cares what anybody's going to say about you? Because there people will talk. People will say, oh, well, you going to get counseling? Oh, you don't want to continue being around us? Even some of your family members. Oh, they may be toxic and they'll look at you like, well, oh, you think you better than us? No, I just recognize that God has called me for greater. And even though I went through what I went through at the hands of you or in this family, I don't have to continue to be attached to this anymore because God allowed me to go through it to break the cycle of the generational curse that's been this bloodline for too long. Yeah, greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. And so since God is residing in me, then you best believe I'm going to do whatever I need to do to address and pay this price in order to see the greatness and the greater days and better days ahead that God has in store for me. There are people waiting on you, whether it's, children that may come in the future if you don't have any children, or your children that are alive, or your grandchildren, for some of you out there, they are waiting on you to change the tide. And if you still have breath in your body, clearly, because you listen to this, then it means that God is giving you another chance to choose today whom you will serve, to choose to serve him wholeheartedly, and choose to change the tide. Choosing to do something different that has never been done in your bloodline. Stop saying, well, everybody else like this. And that's something that, even Pastor Mike Todd talked about. Like, well, he knew some people that were fat and they dressed it nice. And so it was what it was. But no, why continue to be unhealthy because everybody else is being unhealthy? Why continue to put off what God wanted you to deal with? Because ain't nobody else doing it. So I don't got to do it. Our parents used to say when we were younger, well, if everybody jumped off a building or off a bridge, would you do it? And most of us that had sense, good enough sense, would say, no, I'm not about to jump to my death because my friends jumped to my death. So then why are you living your life in death? Because your friends are. They ain't going to counseling, so why would I go to counseling? Mama and daddy and them drunk and they was all right. I mean, they was alcoholics, but they was all right. They made it work. So let me just keep doing it. They bottled up and suppressed their feelings and their issues, and they didn't, they wanted to keep avoiding the issue, and they didn't want to address the mess. So why should I do it? Nobody, or even in business, nobody helped me get to the top, so I should help others to get to the top. God allowed you to see the corruptness, whether it be in your family or in business, so that you can be the person, the pioneer, the trailblazer to change the tide. Stop giving the narrative that says, well, nobody else paid the cost for greatness, so I'm not going to pay it. No, you pay it. God wanted you to go through it so that you would see the problem, address it, and choose to fix it and resolve it. And you don't resolve by trying to change other people, because you can't change their heart. You can just change yours. And in you changing your heart, you will then be at a better place and be a better leader to help lead others who want that same change. There's a payment for greatness, y'all. Are you willing to pay it? I got to get up out of here. So may the Lord bless you and keep you, cause his face shine upon you. May the Lord God be gracious to you, show you his favor, and give his shalom, give his peace. Take care. Love you guys. Bye now.